Hey everyone, I'm K.A. Will.
And I'm Gabby.
And welcome to another episode of Marriage Journey, where we give you a unique look at our marriage. We came up with this concept, this idea of K&G culture, because we realized that we do not have to have the same culture that we grew up with in our parents' household. When you get married, when you have a family, when you have a wife, a husband, you create your own culture, your own mindset, the way you run your household, all that kind of stuff. You create that, you cultivate it on your own. It is up to you to create a culture for your household, for you to flourish and how you, what you see fit as the best way.
Right. But in addition to that, we do have parallels. So hopefully you guys can get some insight, and please share how you're trying to develop your own value system in your family as we learn together, right? Because life is hard. So it's good to, we can share, and then we would love to hear from you guys.
Yeah. So this episode, we're going to be talking about just that, cultivating your own culture in your household and finding out from your spouse what are some things they want to see implemented in the culture of your household, and how that's going. What culture do you currently see us having, and what you think we can improve on, what we can change, things like that. So we're gonna get into that for this episode. So I hope this helps you guys in understanding more why we call it K&G culture, and also that you can implement these things in your household, sort of as a gauge for where you want your household to go. Yeah. So you want to start with a question?
Sure.
What's up?
So when you first hear of K&G culture or making your own culture in your family, to you, what does that look like? What does it feel like? What do you first think about?
Yeah, so like I always say in our intros, for me it's I realized there were some things in my childhood that it wasn't, put it like this, when you're a child you think that's just how things are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you don't know any different. Your parents are teaching you, you're watching your parents, and you think everything is normal because that's what you know. That's what you're being taught. So when I got older, started seeing the world through adult eyes, and especially after I got married, I realized, well, actually, it happened to me before, because that's why we started having these conversations. So before I even got married, I realized my culture, the atmosphere in my home, doesn't have to be the same as when I was growing up as a child, Not that everything was bad,
right,
but I definitely saw things that I would do differently, or cultivate differently, or encourage differently, allow or not allow, whatever. So for me, that's where it all stemmed from. I was just it stemmed from me realizing, there's a better way. Our parents did a great job, but there's always room for improvement.
right.
So for me, since there is a better way, and now I have kids, we have kids, I'm I want to do better than what my parents did, you know? So for me, that's where this whole concept came from. You know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know.
That ain't the truth.
Yeah, so it's you have to try different things.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that even the things you know have limits. It has limits in marriage. It has limits in raising kids.
Right.
Because what worked for your parents might not necessarily work for you and your spouse. So it's you're trying to do things instinctively, not necessarily that you're trying to force it, but you're trying to do things the way you saw it, what you know from your parents, not realizing, hey, that doesn't work for the person you are and for the person that your spouse is. Hey, that doesn't work for your kids as opposed to when you were a child.
Right.
So that's where it came from for me. What about you? What do you see Or what did you want in the culture in our household?
So when I first think about creating culture and family, I think about the kids first and how I'm going to raise the kids. Not necessarily marriage, but like how am I going to raise the kids? Like you said, based off our own experiences in our parents' household and how we were raised. How I want to do it different. It's about to be a long-winded answer. So
No, that's fine. That's good. Go ahead, talk, girl.
So think about the kids, and I think about instinctively what I would change from my childhood, and then what flaws I see in myself that I don't want to instill in the kids.
That's true.
It's and I don't think it's because I hate myself, but I just know this doesn't work.
Better.
Exactly, like
you can do better. Yeah.
I don't want the kids to struggle with the same things I did. But then I think back and I'm like, man, every experience is for the first time. Every moment is the first time. So as much as there are books and videos like this to guide and encourage, everything is for the first time. And so you really don't know what you're doing. You really don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I'm realizing, if we're living in this world of badness and sin, as much as I would want to shift the culture from how I was raised and make it different now, there's still going to be holes and flaws in my parenting or in my culture and my value system, right?
Because
or
we're going a different way.
Or how I implement it. And just being human.
Yeah.
Yeah, just being human, that nothing's perfect. So slowly, as we're doing these videos and raising the kids, I'm realizing, I gotta let go of some control of wanting things to be perfect or wanting things to be so different. But just know that my parents did the best they could at that time, and now I'm gonna do the best I can at my time. Shiloh and Kalel might have to go to the go see therapy because of stuff that I did or you did, but that's just while being on this earth. That's part of living and being human. So all that to say is, sure, I have things that I would like to see or things that I'm going to work towards.
Right.
God help me if it doesn't work out that way. At least I tried.
Right.
So some of the things that I want first thing I thought about was the kids. So some of the things I want for them is independence. I want them to be able to do things on their own, think on their own, not necessarily do something because authority said to do it, but actually have critical thinking and saying, okay, does this work? Does this not work? And not in a disrespectful way, but just thinking. But then I think about how, as Christians, the Lord asks us to be dependent on Him. So how do you? Are the two contradictory? Like trying to raise independent children, but then learn to be dependent on God? I don't know. Well, that's how I want them to be.
Yeah.
Confidence.
The balance.
Confidence in themselves. Confident in their relationship with the Lord, because ultimately they're responsible to Him. To me for a time, but ultimately they're living for Him, and so I want them to know Him and to be able to have a relationship with Him and to obey, basically. Let's see. Emotional vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want them to be able to tell me how they're feeling. Feel free to show emotion.
That's true.
But the constant crying that gets me every time. So the constant crying bothers me. But be able to show emotion, like feel how they feel, and feel like it's a safe space at home to be who they are and to feel how they feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And then along with confidence, accepting themselves. Because I definitely have struggled with that, maybe still struggling with it, but accepting who I am and being like, this is it. Instead of reaching for perfection, but just saying, oh, this is who I am.
Look at you. I love it. I do. We sound like parents.
We are?
No, I'm saying almost to the point where we sound like our parents. I was listening to you where our first concern is our children.
Yeah.
When we think about the culture in our household. And the same thing you said with wanting them to do better than us. That makes us sound like a parent,
That's my
You see what
mom
I'm
and my
saying?
dad out here.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Even though we try sometimes to get away from it, we still have a little bit of them in us.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, yeah, we want the best for our kids.
Yes.
That's a lot of what I hear you saying. But something else you said about the kids just being able to feel safe, to feel like they can be themselves, to feel that like they can come to us, like freely come to us and not even have to think about it or wonder what mommy and daddy are going to think they just naturally come to us. That I think would be an awesome culture.
Right. And
that would be an awesome culture.
That's what God wants, right? Just come, as everyone says, come as you are.
Right.
Just feel comfortable. Feel comfortable to be you. Mistake, no mistake, perfection, imperfection, whatever it is, whoever you are.
Mm-hmm.
I have some more things I would like to add.
Okay. You're going to remember them?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So for me, I just want to add on to what you said,
Mm-hmm.
or give my 2 cents. For me, I want us to have a culture of faith. And let me be clear when I say a culture of faith. Not just being Christians, because that's at the core of faith. Mm-hmm. So I definitely want that for us. Mm-hmm. But I want our home, our culture to be believing in the impossible. Trying any and everything. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, we sometimes limit ourselves because we, like you said, we don't instill the confidence, we don't instill the trust, we don't instill the another word you use, the bravery, the courage mm-hmm. to try something. Mm-hmm. I want us and our children to say, at least I tried. You know what I'm saying? Because we had faith enough mm-hmm. to try. We believe this is possible. We believe that we could accomplish this. We believe that this would happen, or that no one has ever done it before, or our family's never done it before.
Right.
But we're going to try it.
Right. And
go at it confidently. Mm-hmm. So when I say I want us to have a culture of faith, I want us to have a culture of believing. I definitely want us to have a culture of believing in God also, the spiritual part. That has to be there because, again, I say we limit ourselves. I know sometimes we think as human beings that nothing is above us. But we have to be honest with ourselves that this is limited. But with God, we can do so much more. We can do so much more. So I want our culture to be, I want us to instill that in our culture. Definitely, I want to instill grace. I want the kids to know, I want my wife to know it's okay when we mess up. It's okay when we make a mistake. Not everything is life or death. And when I say that, I mean like not everything needs to be criticized. Not everything needs to be a lesson or punishment. Yeah. Not everything has to be that. Yes, we can learn from all experiences. Mm-hmm. But I'm just thinking about our West Indian culture of how harsh we can be at times as a people, mm-hmm. our culture. Mm-hmm. So I don't want that necessarily for our household. I want us to have a household of grace and encouraging, and I want us to cultivate each other. Like when we see strong points, encourage it, right. Lift it up. When we see something that someone is good at, lean on them for that. Be a helper for them in that. Definitely, and just an atmosphere of fellowship. Mm-hmm. That's another thing I would say that I want for our culture in our home. Because when you have fellowship, when you have that brotherly and sisterly love, it's like, and you know that you're not going to get it anywhere else, then you're not going to look for, say, love in the wrong places, mm-hmm. or be dependent on the wrong type of people, go around the wrong crowd, that type of deal.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that I think about.
Yeah.
So,
When you said, you know, want our family to be accepting of one another, because the world is not going to accept you. There are going to be people who will deny you.
I want us to be accepting of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, if they can be free here, you know, hopefully that builds the confidence for them to be themselves despite external feedback they receive.
Right.
The things I want to add to your grace is forgiveness. So making sure that we teach the kids and each other that forgiveness is always available and ready.
And ready. That's so important.
Sex positivity. So I want us to be sex positive for sure, because as we know, in a lot of old school Caribbean Christian households, it's not talked about. Or if it is, it's saying don't do it, or you'll get kicked out if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend. So just want to be more sex positive. So I talked about the kids. So now for us, for me and you, I want us, as we talk about a lot, to have safe space between us. So again, emotional vulnerability and a place to have that vulnerability between the two of us. Right. I think a way to do that is making sure that we're best friends always. And then I've seen us already implement this, but we're to each other, we're first, and then the kids are next. Right. We keep each other first. We try to keep the spark alive. Try not to lose ourselves in the kids. Although last year was a
trying time,
as people say, a doozy.
Oh boy.
So yeah, exactly. When we get lost in, all right, well, you know, whatever happens in the marriage, it has to be on hold while we take care of the kids and make sure they're good and keep it moving. So I think we've definitely worked hard to make sure that we're first to each other and then everything else.
Yeah.
Now, how are we doing with all that stuff?
So how are we doing with what we want our culture to be and what we want to implement? I think we're doing well, but I will say that it is a conscious effort, especially with the kids, because they have so much energy that sometimes they can overwhelm you with you trying to implement certain things, and their energy is just all over the place.
Overstimulated. Adults can get overstimulated as well.
Right. You heard me say that the other day. I was not playing. Yeah, because the thing is, yes, you want to implement positive things, but then the balance comes in when you don't want to take away from who they are as children. Because you want to implement all these things, you have all these ideas, and yes, they're positive, they're good, they're loving, but the balance is, okay, how do I implement this and then allow my kids to be themselves? Allow Shyla to be Shyla, allow Khalil to be Khalil, and still, you know, it's a nurturing thing where they're still growing, they're enjoying it, they're still able to be kids, be themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're doing all right. It's just the hardest part for me, I think, is for us to keep it as a conscious effort that this is what our goal is.
Right.
This is what we're trying to do, and staying on top of that.
I'm realizing that I need to let go of control. So as much as like you said, trying to set up this value system. Yeah, the kids might, not that they're, I don't know how to say this, but not that they're bad or they don't want to do good, but it could be we can, in trying to implement all these things, we can be controlling towards them and again, not allowing that freedom.
Right.
So the way I view it is like letting go of control, letting them be who they are.
Yeah, it's hard.
Some things that I would have dared say when I was younger. But I know that's not out of malice that the kids are
Right.
being who they are. They're just curious. I want to make sure that they're safe, so I'm gonna somebody try to call me the helicopter mom. I don't think I am, but maybe I am. But I'm like, be careful. Don't hit this. Be careful with this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. It is hard, like you said, and it is a conscious effort that we have to make every moment.
Yeah.
Every single moment. It gotta be something I gotta think about,
Yeah. So I'm thinking, most of this episode, you guys, we talk mostly about the family and the kids.
Mm-hmm.
We might do a continuation of this next week, of the culture between us.
Okay.
As husband and wife.
Yeah.
I think we touched on it a little bit, but I think most of what we talked about was the kids and the family as a whole. So yeah, we really hope this episode has been, insightful, exciting, something that you can see yourself engaging in conversation with your household. Yeah, so we'll try next week. We're probably going to do that. Next week we'll try to do a continuation of this for just husband and wife and what we want to cultivate in our culture. So I'm K.A. Will. I just want to say thank you guys again for tuning into another episode of Marriage Journey.
Bye.